Welcome. In this video, we're going to talk about structs. A struct is an object that does not use member functions, and we don't even know what that means yet, but by the end of this chapter, hopefully you will understand that very well. A structure just gives you the opportunity to have a collection of diverse data, and you can treat all of that data as one single item. For example, if you take a look at this struct CD account, it's made up of two doubles and an integer. You can define your struct to have whatever type of data you want to be stored in it. So to make this simple, we're just going to use this struct called CD account. So let's practice. I'm going to pretend I'm using this in my main function. I'm going to declare an instance, an object of type CD account, and I'm going to call it my account. So there's a couple of things I could do. One, I could just initialize everything. I could initialize my balance to be 10,000 and my interest rate to be 3% and my term to be 36 months. So that would all be in one line. That's declaration and initialization. Or I could just declare a CD account and not initialize it. But here's what would happen. Now my account is filled with two doubles and an integer, so it should work very well, but your account doesn't have any data in it. So if I tried to print it onto the screen, for example, I tried to use the dot operator to access your account balance. Your account has no balance. So this would be a problem. This is the same thing as declaring like a double called num, not giving any value to it, and then trying to print it onto the screen. Num is a double. Num has no value. Your account dot balance is a double and it has no value. So this is no good. So what we could do is we could either assign it using the dot operator, assign each member variable, or we could ask the user. You could assign like your account balance dot balance equals 30,000. And then we could ask the user to enter the information for the other. We could ask the user to enter the information for the interest rate. And we could ask the user to enter the information that's prompt. I'm just not doing the cout part, but you should always prompt for input. Tell the user what you want them to enter, and then we could get the user to enter the term as well. So you can either declare and initialize your CD account, or you could use the dot operator to access the different member variables inside of it and either fill it with user input or assign values to it. All right, so once you use the dot operator, if your struct is made of doubles and integers and strings and characters, then all you do is use the dot operator, and then the member variable will become the data type that it's defined to be in the structure. And you use it just like you would use any double or any integer in this case. All right, so here we can use some functions to pass our structure. We can pass our structure by value to a function, like this one right here. You could pass your structure by, oops, I messed up. That's not by value. This is by reference. You could pass it by reference, or you could pass it by value, which it needs to have values in it in order to pass by value, or it could also be a return type from a function. So let's go through these different functions here. So let's assume that I have declared two CD accounts, my account and your account. So, and I want to fill them with user input. The first way I could fill it with user input is I could call this getData function right here, getData, and pass it my account. When my account gets passed, then the account is going to fill all of them by reference. The nice thing about using pass by reference in C++ is that you don't have to worry about dereferencing the pointer. It's just like we've been doing all semester, and that was learning how to pass by reference. So you can pass a CD account or an object of your structure by reference. The other thing I could do is I could call this other function called getData2. This function called getData2 has no formal parameters, so it doesn't take any arguments. It will declare a temporary CD account, fill the temporary CD account, and then return that one. And the data type of temp matches the return type, and then that could be assigned to a CD account. Either way works very well to fill up your struct. The difference is that usually pass by reference is much more efficient. This function right here, that is a pass by value function. In order to use this function, your CD account must have a value in it. But here's a function call example to that. Double, it's hard to write down here, double balance equals calculate new balance, and I'll pass your account to it. So the only thing is that if you are using a pass by value, your struct must have values in it. So we're going to assume that our struct got values here and then was passed to this function. This function will then use the account to do everything and return the balance. Since it's passed by value, it will not modify your account. When it's passed by reference, this is a pass by reference, it will modify the account. All right, so this semester we've already been using structs to do our guess game. So if you took your guess game and you changed the definition of your class right here at the beginning of your guess game and you changed it to a struct, your guess game should work exactly the same as it's been working the entire semester. And actually it's more practical and more common to use a struct in the way that we have been using it so far. But because we're going to be learning how to create member functions for our class, we started out with a class. The difference between a struct and a class is that by default, all the member variables of a structure are public. So if you notice, when we created our class, we have to put this keyword public here to make all of our member variables available to our main functions and all of our other functions. So later, hopefully by the end of the semester, you will have a very good understanding of member functions and private versus public member functions and member variables, and the difference between a class and a structure. So we're just getting now started with reviewing what a struct is. You have been using a struct this entire semester, not the entire semester, but since we started our guess game, you've just been using a class like a struct. But starting with this semester, starting with this chapter, we're going to start learning how to create member functions. One more thing about structures is you can use hierarchical structures, and sometimes it's practical to have one struct contain another struct. For example, we can have a struct here, which is a date, which is a month, a day, and a year. And you could have a struct person info, your person has a first name, a height, a weight, and a birthday. And the birthday, instead of breaking up the birthday into birthday month, birthday day, birthday year, you could have a struct and declare an object of that struct inside of this struct. So that sometimes is very useful. If you're going to do that, if you notice here, you would need to, you do not declare, and since person info is using the date, you just declare an object of person info called person, and then you will have person will have a birthday dot month dot day dot year. So person one, once we've declared person one, you could go to person one dot first name. The data type of person one dot first name is a string, so anything you can do with a string, you can do with person one dot first name. Person one dot height is of data type double. Person one dot weight is of data type integer. Person one dot birthday dot month is an integer. Person one dot birthday dot day is an integer, and person one dot birthday dot year is also an integer. So I'll just say that this is a string, this is a double, this is an integer, this is an integer, this is an integer, and this is an integer. So you can certainly do this, and this really, if you take a look at this example, it definitely makes sense. So here's just taking another look at it. You can initialize your person. So if you remember the last slide, we had a string, a double, an int, an int, and an int. So this is person two dot first name, person two dot height, dot, and this should be a double right here. I don't know what happened in my, so that's a double. So this is a string, a double for the height, an integer for the weight, an integer for the month, an integer for the day, and an integer for the year.